All right. Okay, so you're really interested in ayahuasca and the experience at Rythmia. So yeah, I'm going to share everything I've integrated so far. So, thank you girls for your comments. So to start with, ayahuasca is not only a plant medicine, a tea that works with you, but it's also a spirit. Like ayahuasca is a spirit. A lot of people call her Mama Ayahuasca or Mother Ayahuasca, because she is this very, 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 very strong spirit that calls you to her when you are ready, when you need to be called to her, when she is ready to work with you. It's this really soul level calling, and deep, deep, deep soul level work that you do with her. And that started for me, like I found out about ayahuasca and I learned about it and researched it a bit about 5 years ago, and I was like scared shitless. I just thought, this stuff is way too intense. I'm not ready for it. It just kind of just freaked me out. Like, it just really freaked me out. I was like, no, can't handle that. And at the time, I was in a space of like really deep overwhelm from spirit coming back to work with me and all my gifts and channels opening up and everything coming through in full force. And I was already overwhelmed by my day-to-day experience. I was not ready to go and get overwhelmed by ayahuasca. But a few months ago, I started like looking into it again from a different space where I wasn't like scared of it. I was more intrigued by it. And what happened was I already had a ticket booked to Costa Rica, something that I did within it was like a 3-minute decision when I was at the London airport, and I had to buy a flight out of California in order to enter California because of visa reasons. So yeah, I had like 3 minutes till they weren't going to let me on the plane. I needed a flight out, and I just kind of frantically went on my phone and just knew like Costa Rica. So I just booked Costa Rica and thought, even if I don't even go to Costa Rica, at least I'm getting on the plane to California kind of thing. And then a couple of weeks later, I was thinking like, should I actually go to Costa Rica? Because I've got a ticket, I might as well. And I was doing a reading for a friend. Her name is Mary Shores. She's a Hay House author, and she wrote the book Conscious Communications. And she was saying to me in her reading, she was saying, I've got this opportunity to go run a workshop at this retreat called Rythmia in Costa Rica. I was like, oh my gosh, I love the sound of that place. I don't even know what it is, but I love the vibe of it already. And we were talking about it, and she was telling me how it's a plant medicine retreat where you journey with ayahuasca. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, I'm going to Costa Rica. I've been interested in this again. Maybe I should look into it. And then within that day, I can't remember exactly how, but a couple other times the retreat came up, like it got mentioned to me again, or I went to go watch another ayahuasca documentary called The Truth of Reality, and by the end of it, it actually comes back to the whole reason why Rythmia was created. I didn't know that it was related to Rythmia, so it kind of just all came up in one day that Rythmia was the place. And I was like, oh my gosh, kind of still like, And I remember I was thinking about it, I was considering it, and I was falling asleep one night, and Mother Ayahuasca came to me as a spirit, and she gave me these wings, and she lifted me up, and we started flying together. Sounds strange, but I lifted up, and we started flying together, very similar to like an astral traveling experience. And we were flying over the coast of California down to Costa Rica, and we got to Costa Rica, and she landed me at Rythmia, landed me in the grass, and don't even know how to explain it, but she transformed me back into a fetus. So like a baby before being born. And planted me in the womb of the earth. So I could see this visual of me returning into a fetus and being planted into the earth with this in this womb, and then the cord came up to my body, and she just said to me, "This is how we're going to start. I'm going to take you into my womb, basically, into my nurturing, into my love. I'm going to mother you, and you're going to be rebirthed." And so I was like, okay, sounds pretty cool. Like feeling a little bit more confident and feeling a bit more like, okay, I'm sure that I'm being called to this. Now, if I didn't know already, I'm pretty sure now that I'm being called to this. And hi Sierra, hi Sonia, hi Melissa, Carol. Yay, happy you're jumping on live. Okay, so that's how it started. And I just made the decision. I was like, yeah, I just have to like jump in. I just have to commit, and I just have to do it. Because I knew if I thought about it for too long, I just ponder it and everything like that. I just knew I just had to go. So when I did call up and say like I want to book, I want to book for the 17th to the 24th, because you go for a week. You have to stay a week. It's not like you just go in for one ceremony and leave the next day. It's a week experience. And I just love the number 17 because it's my birthday. And so I was like, hey, I want to book in for the 17th. And they're like, oh, it's fully booked. I was like, oh. And they're like, oh, but there's one cancellation. And I said, it's mine. So I claimed the spot. I paid for it. For those of you who are interested, it does cost, depending on what options you have, it's like $3,500 to $5,000 for the week experience. Round about in US dollars. And so I booked it, and then I was so excited leading up to it, and I went to go get on my flight, and left like super early, drove like an hour and a half, 2 hours to LAX. Got to the airport, and there was this huge lineup of cars trying to get into the airport, and it took like over 50 minutes just to get from the entrance to the terminal kind of thing. And I was like 10 minutes too late, and they just wouldn't let me on the plane, and I was like, oh my gosh, what the fuck. So I got turned back and had to drive back home, and was just like, oh damn it. But I was kind of relieved too, because that trip was like 3 flights, and like it had a 6-hour layover in it, and it was just a really long trip. So I rebooked a flight that was direct. It was just 5 hours from LAX straight to Liberia, like a day or so later, and it was just a way easier trip. So I was kind of happy about that. And on the plane, it was just funny because I would be looking around at certain people, and I'd look at them and be like, you're going to Rythmia. Like, I just know it. Like, you've been there before, or you're going there. I just know it. And then there was like specific people that I was looking at, and I was like, I'm just going to wait. You're going to be at Rythmia. I know it. And then at one point I got up and went to go to the bathroom, and I was walking down the bathroom, and I saw this guy. It was Dr. Jeff, who is who is one of the main, like, he's not the founder, but he's just one of the main people that works at Rythmia. And I saw him, and I was like, I've been watching all your videos. You're Dr. Jeff. And he was like, yep. And I said, I'm going to Rythmia. And he's like, you're gonna love it. Like, you're gonna have the best time of your life. And I was like, okay, thanks. Like, so excited. And I went into Rythmia with this whole thing of like, I'm just gonna go explore the ayahuasca spirit and have all these visions, and it's just gonna be like super psychedelic or fun, and like I just thought it was just gonna be this totally blissful week. And then I you get there and you get like your whole introduction thing, and you get your package. So you get all these like, you get all these things like you get like a water bottle, Rythmia water bottle, and a bag with all your stuff in it, workbooks and things like that. And you get these tokens, like it's all running on this token system. So you get 1 token for your massage that's included. You get 3 tokens for colonic cleanses, and yeah, there's also like volcanic mud baths, and you get organic vegan buffet meals, 3 times a day. Yeah, it's like you really get like a whole package thing, and you get tokens. You get 4 tokens for your ayahuasca ceremonies, and then you have to go to the medical area, and you have to get like a whole checkup done to make sure that your body's like, there's no warning signs as to why you shouldn't be taking ayahuasca. I'm not sure what they're looking for exactly, but they just check you and make sure your body's like physically ready for ayahuasca, and I was. Yeah, so you get the whole orientation, everything like that, and then the next day, because I went in on a Sunday, you either go in on a Sunday or a Saturday for a week, and then you start on the Monday, so you do 4 nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, and on Thursday night you do like a 12 to 14 hour like all night experience. So I went into Monday, and I was all like, oh, I'm so excited, it's gonna be so magical. And I went and had my first experience. Like, well, first of all, you go into this like they call it the Moloko, and it's kind of this indoor outdoor type big space, kind of like what you'd see is for like doing yoga, and you all get a mattress and a blanket and a pillow and a bucket. So you pick your mattress. I picked to be like as close to outside as possible, so I was like looking up at the stars and looking at the trees and everything like that. And there's like a couple of main shamans who are running the ceremony, and then there's like 6 or 8 other shamans who are assisting, who are there to just take care of you, support you, help you through the experience, everything like that. There's a fire outside. Yeah. So they give you like a whole prep on the intention of the ceremony, the type of ayahuasca that you're going to be journeying with, how to go into the experience, all of that. So I was all like, okay, I'm ready. And then we went up and we first had what's called rape, and it's like this powdered herbal mix. It's a really fine powder that they put in this pipe thing, and they blow it up your nose. So it's this powder that they blow up your nose, and it's meant to ground you and open up your third eye, and it just complements the ayahuasca. It's something that kind of gets you ready for the ayahuasca. So I went into that. It really like stings. It makes your eyes kind of water. It feels really funny. And then they get the ayahuasca ready, and they start calling people up to have their first cup. And it's just like a shot glass for your first cup. So I went up, had that, tastes disgusting. But I was like, oh my gosh, so excited. And while you're doing that, you're also like communicating with Mother Ayahuasca, saying like, this is my intention. And there's like 3 main intentions. There's show me who I've become, which is like, show me my conditionings, what I need to let go of on like my human or ego level, or why I feel the way I feel, if you're anxious or depressed, or if there's certain things that are really weighing you down, it's showing me who I've become, like reveal to me what I need to be aware of. And the second intention is merge me back with my soul. The third intention is heal my heart. So, and often people get like a new heart. It's like a rebirth process. And then, so I was saying my intention with Mother Ayahuasca. I was saying, show me who I've become. And and just sending her lots of love and thanking her for calling me to her and for bringing me on this journey. And so I went back to my bed and you lay down, and it's about like, just reading your comments. So I was laying down and I was thinking, I'm taking it now, like, just gonna sit here and wait. And you wait for about like 20, 30 minutes. And it was just like, and then all of a sudden, I was laying there with my eyes closed, and all of a sudden, these like laser beams started like just penetrating my third eye. And I was like, whoa, it started. And it was really intense. And then all these, it's almost like strobe lights, like these really bright greens and bright purples, and all these bright colors were coming at my third eye. I was like, whoa. And it was really, really intense. And then, because it was like I was seeing this eye that was looking at me kind of thing. And everything turned into like fractals, and I was just like, whoa, this stuff is strong. Like, it was so intense. And I kept, and it is a bit blurry to me now, so I can't explain it all completely. But at that point, I just remember it got really intense visually. And I started seeing like all these snakes, these purple snakes. And ayahuasca is known to be a snake energy. So I knew it was her coming to me, and she's coming to me in all these different ways. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, you're intense. And all these eyes looking at me and everything like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. And yeah, it's like I could see the matrix and everything like that. I saw a chameleon. Everything was just really bright colors. And then I could feel like all the laser beams. They were lasering through my body. And honestly, like, even just talking about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I really need to breathe, because it was just so intense. And yeah, I could feel all these laser beams going through my body, and like really just, I don't even know how to explain it, but just all this energetic work and these laser beams going through my body, and all this integration with the fractals and the sacred geometry that I was seeing. And they say that like when you see the fractals and the sacred geometry, you're rewiring neuro pathways. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it's, yeah, there's certain like neuro pathways that you're rewiring back to, like away from the conditioning and back to the original state of consciousness, if that makes sense. So yeah, that was all happening, and I was just laying there like, holy fuck, this is like way more intense than I thought it would be. And then, so with that, so I just kept seeing things like really, really intensely. And I kept seeing all these like, it was like feminine body parts. And it might sound weird, but like I kept getting this knowing that I was going to go through a rebirth by the end of the week. Like, she was just showing me like, you're going to be rebirthed. And I was like, okay. And my whole body just started twitching. Like, you know when you're restless, or you're magnesium deficient, or you're like falling asleep and your body starts twitching? I was just laying there, and this was like every time I had ceremony, every time I had ayahuasca for, 6 hours or so, I'd just twitch. And I'd be laying there and just like I had like a defibrillator or something. I was just twitching. And I was just like, oh my God. And then, yeah, it's really quite like a blur to me because it was so intense at the time. But I was so out of my body that I started realizing I couldn't remember what my face looked like. I was just in this state where I was like, where am I? I don't remember what my face looks like. I can't remember my face or who I am. And I was really trying to think like, okay, I know I'm a human. I know I'm Jessica. I'm trying to think of what I look like, but I just couldn't remember who I was. And I started just getting really like, just starting to freak out a bit. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just completely detached from my human self and my identity. And I was just kind of out in this space of nothingness, like non-physical existence. And when I was seeing all the fractals, I started looking, it's hard to explain, but I was looking at the fractals, but I at the same time realized I was a fractal. Like, if you can imagine there's fractals and there's all these different parts to it, with all these different shapes and different colors and things like that, I realized I was this light pink, almost like octagon or hexagon shaped piece, fractal, as a part of this big fractal I was looking at. And I'm not joking, I literally was convinced, okay, I'm just a fractal now. Like, I've transcended my human experience. I'm no longer Jessica. No, I'm just a fractal. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I'm going fucking mad. Like, I'm just in a space where I'm convinced that I'm a fucking fractal. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with my life as a fractal? Like, it just was so intense, and you're so in it. You just think that that's exactly what's happening, kind of thing. Even though you're kind of aware of it, you still are very much in it and just convinced that that's where you are, what you are, everything like that. So yeah, I'm at this point where completely dissociated from my body and my identity, don't even remember what my face looks like. I'm convinced I'm this pink fractal, and I'm kind of freaking out, just like, oh, this is just too much. And then I was at this point where I was like, from that space, I then started feeling this overwhelming sense of just feeling so lonely, and like I was just so lonely, because I didn't know who I was. I felt like I was just in this space of nothingness, and I was just alone. And I just started really realizing, like, yeah, I was just like, I'm so alone right now. And I started thinking of my loved ones. I started thinking of my mum, and she came in. And I started thinking about my boyfriend, and he came in. I started thinking about my sister, and actually my dog from my childhood. She came in and gave me this big hug. And that was the best. She, like, because I've had astral traveling experiences with her. Her name's Susie. And she came in and just gave me this big hug, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh, like I really need this right now, kind of thing. And Mother Ayahuasca was pointing out to me, she was like showing me that because I was so nurtured throughout my childhood and my upbringing, because I was so used to being taken care of by my mum, my dad, and I was so well taken care of, it at the same point made me a little bit not necessarily self-reliant, but codependent on nurturing, loving support from others. And I realized that one of my big intentions going into the retreat was that I wanted to let go of any parts of me that were my smaller self, right? So I've got this big vision, big dream, and sometimes I feel like I'm holding myself back from that big vision, because I sometimes feel like I'm just being my smaller self, like just being in that comfort zone. And I realized that Mother Ayahuasca was showing me that that in order for me to feel comfortable in that space, I felt like I needed to call in other people, and that I wasn't actually just tuning within myself and being self-reliant and tapping into my own power. Because at one point I remember I did say to Mother Ayahuasca, I was like, please just come in and nurture me, like I don't like this. And she wouldn't. And it was like this tough love experience, and she made me go inward and become more self-reliant and realize how strong I am within myself. So that was a huge lesson. Like, it doesn't sound that big, I guess, but it was huge for me. And I realized when I look back on, say, when I went through my awakening, when spirit started coming back to me, I was always just calling my mum, and just always looking for clairvoyants and doctors and all these people outside of me to tell me, like, what is going on. because everything was just so overwhelming. But once I actually started tuning in and doing my own internal work, that's when everything shifted and the anxiety or the overwhelm released as I started to work with spirit again. So she showed me all these reflections of that. She also showed me like how that's relative to, like, I've had relationships ever since I was 16. Like, I've just always had a relationship. I've never been single for more than like 2 weeks. So yeah, she was showing me that was part of my smaller self, and that sometimes when I think of my bigger vision, it's almost like in the back of my mind. It's like I know I'm going to create that bigger vision, but I also at the back of my mind sometimes think like, well, someone's going to give me an opportunity, or someone's going to support me in that, or almost like waiting for someone else to come and give me that opportunity to create that big vision, but realizing that it's all within me was the big thing. So that was happening, and then what happened, this is the really hard part, was because my dad, he had a stroke, well, a minor stroke apparently, a couple months ago, and was told that he really seriously needed to take care of his cholesterol levels, that he had like some blocked arteries and things like that, and I've just been stressing about it ever since and really been on his case to like take care of his health naturally. And I've been having all these nightmares and dreams, just stressing myself about if anything happened to him. And she brought my dad in, and I was looking at him, and I just had all this love for him. I was like, oh my gosh, I just love you so much. And I just had like just soul level like gratitude and appreciation for him. And I was just looking at him and thinking like how much I loved him. And then she said to me, now you're going to watch him transition, and you're going to accept it. And that was the hardest thing. Because when you're in it, it's so real. And she showed me him transitioning from physical form back into spirit. And I was watching it, and I was just crying, like in real life crying as well, crying on the bed. And in the experience, I was just crying, and I was just like, no, like, don't go kind of thing. And I just wasn't accepting it. And I was like, just saying to Mother Ayahuasca, I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not letting my dad go. But she just kept holding that energy consistently. And I just realized, okay, this doesn't mean he's really dying, but it's that I need to accept that one day he will die. And that I need to be at peace with that and realize that he will always be in connection with me anyway. And that acceptance would release the stress I'd been holding on to. So I struggled with it for a while, and then I just kind of breathed into it and realized it's okay to let go of the fear of him passing. So I accepted it. I was just crying, and then I started coming back into the room a little bit more. And when I opened my eyes and started looking around, everyone was in fractals as well. Like everyone, I'd look at one person and they'd be in 3 pieces almost. And I was just like, whoa. And then I started feeling the need to like purge. So I got up and I was just like hovering over my bucket, and my whole body was just weak, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I was just like dry wrenching, and kind of like doing these really loud burps into my bucket. Nothing was coming up physically. I actually didn't throw up the whole week. Even though I was actually fully open to it, I was like, I was totally open to throwing up and just cleansing my whole physical body. But I didn't throw up. I just kept purging this like dry wrenching. And as the shamans say, and you can feel it as well, it doesn't matter if you throw up anything physically or not. You are purging energetically, and you are releasing those old parts of yourself. And they say also, when you're purging into your bucket, look into the bucket and ask Mother Ayahuasca, what am I letting go of? And she was telling me, she's like, you're letting go of control. You're letting go of control. You're letting go of your smaller self that wants to control things, and letting go of certain fears. And I was like, okay. And for a while there, I was just laying there with my, it's kind of embarrassing, I was just laying there with my head on like the side of the bucket, just resting on it, just thinking, holy fuck, what have I got myself into? This is just way too intense. And I was just thinking, I'm never doing this again. I'm leaving tomorrow. Like, can't handle this. I was legitimately certain that I was going to leave the next day, and that I wasn't going to do it again. And then I kind of spent a while just kind of purging and coming back into my body a bit more. And just looking at my notes. The other thing I noticed too was that when I became more aware of my body, my whole body and everything was just elongated. Like I felt like this slinky that could just like stretch out, and I was just like, just so long. My body just didn't have that limit to it anymore. I was just this long stretching thing, and my single bed mattress that I was laying on now felt like a king size bed that, like, to get to that end of the bed I'd have to really like crawl over or something. Like everything just felt so long. And yeah, once I kind of started coming back and realizing that I was kind of sobering up from the ayahuasca, I put my hand up for one of the shamans who were assisting, and I was like, help, like, help. And she came over and she's like, you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay. Like, that was just way too intense, and I had to do so much. Like, it might not sound, like, from the way that I'm explaining it, might not sound like a huge thing to process necessarily. I mean, it might not. But it's like, I've done certain processing like that when I've gone to certain, like, healings or life coaching or guided meditation processes, but you're still very, like, in your human experience and aware of it. Whereas when you're in the ayahuasca, you are fully, at a very multi-dimensional level of you are processing it, and it's so intense. And yeah, I said to the shaman, I was like, I'm not okay. I need you to help me stand up. I want to go out to the fireplace and I want to hug. So she helped me up, and I could barely walk. Like, my feet were kind of just stumbling, and I was just holding on to her. Went out to the fireplace and sat at the fireplace, because the fireplace is where they're encouraging you to go when you feel like you need to just cleanse, and the fire cleanses you, kind of thing. And I was just sitting there in front of the fire, and I was just telling her what I experienced, and she was giving me these big hugs, and I was just like saying to her, like, this is too intense. It's way too much. Like, I don't like it. She was like, okay. And I sat there for a while, and other people came to the fire, and they gave me a big hugs, because they could just tell I was like shook. I was just like, oh, what the fuck, kind of thing. And I cried a little bit more, and then they said, okay, because everyone was sobering up, they said, okay, we're calling everyone to come have their second cup. And at first I was like watching people lining up, and I was like, are you mad? Like, what is wrong with you people? You're lining up for another, like, I was just like, oh my god, you guys have lost it. And I just kind of sat there for a while, and then they came up to me again and said, like, are you going to go have your second cup? And my mind was saying no, but my heart was saying yes. Sounds so cheesy, but I just felt like, I have to do this. I have to go have another cup. So I was like, oh, okay. All right. And so I went up, had the second glass, went and laid down, and just thought, fuck. But I laid down for a little while. About 10 minutes later, all of a sudden she came back up into me again, and totally different. This time I just was filled with euphoria. I was just complete euphoria. And she showed me, like, my name. I was like seeing my name, and she put this crown on it. And she was like, you need to realize that you're a queen, that you're a goddess, you're a true divine feminine essence. And I was just looking at it and I could feel it. And I was just sitting there and I was just like hugging myself. And I just had this smile that felt like it went out to my ears. And I was just smiling. And I was just, how like, you're a goddess, you're a queen, you're in your divine feminine. But in this state, I knew it like there was no doubts. It was just this pure essence. And I was just sitting there, I was like, oh my God, I'm a fucking goddess. Like, I just thought I was just the best thing on earth. And not from my ego mind, but from my soul mind. It was like I finally, for the first time in my life, probably, fully saw myself from my soul level and just complete self-love and complete just love of being Jessica and who I am and who I came here to be and my purpose and my gifts and my light. Like, it was just unexplainable, the amount of just self-realization from a soul level of who I was, in complete love with no ego. And I just was just like, oh my God, like just in a complete state of bliss. And I was a lot more in the room that time with the second cup. And I just want to make sure I'm reading. Oh, and I just want to just look at my notes. I just want to mention too, when I was out at the fireplace and I was sitting next to a friend, and his name was Jedi. Well, that's like his nickname. He was sitting next to me, and he is just this really shamanic, cool dude. And he was sitting next to me at the fireplace, kind of just rubbing my back, and he was sitting there, and he was still in the ayahuasca, and he just was sitting there, and he just goes, 17-8, and just smiled, and I was like, that's my birthday. He'd only met me the day beforehand, so he didn't know. And he was one of the guys I saw on the plane and knew, like, you're going to Rythmia. And I said, how did you know that? That's my birthday. And he goes, He just like channeled it. And he just said, you're just a lioness and you're a goddess and everything like that. And that's what gave me the strength to go back and have the second cup as well. But yeah, anyways, in the second cup, I'm realizing I'm this goddess and just feeling such self-love. And I just remember thinking, you know what, I just want to dress up in like lingerie and just do a photo shoot right now, because I was just feeling so confident and so beautiful and so sexy and so just like everything. I just felt so good. And I just thought it was this funny thing. I was like, oh, I just want to have a photo shoot. And just looking here. And then another form of purging is yawning as well, like letting energy out. And so I was yawning at this point too. And she was showing me every time I yawned, like from a side view, I was yawning these crescent moons. So if you can imagine, like side on, it's like these crescent moons were coming out of my mouth. And it was just this magical experience. And there was just crescent moons and stars everywhere, and everything was like jeweled. Like all the visions I was having, they were all just like jeweled, and these beautiful colors of like this lilac purple and this soft matte pink color. It was just, everything was beautiful, and it felt like just an expression of my soul's like essence and energy. And everything was just really like luminescent. And then she started showing me she was showing me a bit more about like my purpose in coming to earth, and she was showing me as this angel on earth, like an earth angel, a light worker, and she showed my pure essence, and I can't even explain it or put it into words, but I just knew it, and I was like, I just loved it. And she showed me these small wings on my back, and she took them off, and she replaced them with these much larger wings. And I was just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, I was just sitting there just smiling. Just everything was just amazing. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much better than the first cup. And And then also, like, she was showing me my purpose in terms of, like, how I'm really meant to hold the space for, like, the Gifted Experts course, and that I've had my time of doing, like, the readings and just sharing my gift with people through the readings, and that it's now definitely time for me to help people activate more of their gifts and utilize more of their gifts so that they can do readings and share with other people, and that I was on track with that and everything. And yeah, that was just a real, like, confirmation, and everything just felt so powerful. And she was showing me, like, with my business and with my income, she just showed me this essence of being, it was like I was, how do I explain it? It's almost like she was showing me that the universe is my bank account, and that I have a tapped in infinite resource or access, and that all I have to do is call it in and like generate it, kind of thing. Like that she was showing me how easy it is, and she was showing me how to do it energetically, and I was like, this is so easy. And I just felt completely abundant, like I just had this universal infinite source of resources, money, just complete abundance. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, oh my gosh, I can just, this is so easy. I never have to, think about money ever again. And it was just this complete flow. And I was looking around the room and looking at the shaman who had just helped me, and looking at all the beautiful people in the room. And I was just sending them money. I was like, look, I've got so much, just here. And I was just sending them money. And as I was sending them, I was like, here's 1,000, here's 2,000, here's, like, I was just sending people money. And it was just the most euphoric experience. And she was also showing me that that is part of my purpose as well, is that as I step into that universal flow of abundance more and more, that it is part of my purpose to give generously, and to be one who can be there to give to those who need it the most, and that the more that I give, the more I generate, and then give and generate and give and generate, which I've been focusing on for a little while previously in terms of, like, doing some things for homeless and things like that. But yeah, she was, like, just showing me that part of my purpose is to call in and generate and give money where it's needed, and to be that channel for the universal resources. And there was a lot going on. But the next thing I can remember was I was kind of just there and enjoying myself, and I kind of closed my eyes for a minute, and I saw this little girl come straight up to me. I knew it wasn't my inner child, because I had my inner child with me and I knew what she looked like. But this other little girl came up to me. She's about four years old, and she came up to me. I just looked at her and I just knew that she was my daughter. And I just was like, I was sitting at the beach with her, and she was just looking me straight in the eyes, and she had these, like, piercing, like, ocean colored, like, bluey green kind of turquoise, how do you say that word? Like aqua, colored eyes, and this just wild kind of salty hair, like kind of brown with blonde at the ends. And she was like naked, and she was just this pure, amazing, like, wild child that needed, and she was showing me she needed to be in nature, she needed to be in really pure environments, like nature, that she was very sensitive to energy, and she was showing me that she is going to always be a reminder of my inner child, and my inner peace and playfulness and purity, like, all. She was just showing me almost like telepathically what she was going to show me, and how I needed to hold her, as a mother. And she was just the sweetest thing. And I was just sitting there, like, again, just grinning from, like, ear to ear. And I was just looking at her, and I was smiling at her. I was like, you're so cute. Like, honestly, she was the cutest kid I've ever seen. I knew that we were in California, so I was like, okay, I knew that part of her journey was to be in California. And yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And then I kind of go off into like other spaces and just be enjoying and seeing the snakes again, and just, yeah, like really in this space of kind of in and out. And then when she came back to me at one point, she came up to me and she's like, do you want to know my name? I was like, yeah. And she came up to me and she goes, she said, my name is Anka Ocean. So Anka Ocean. It's like a two-part name, Anka Ocean. And she's showing me because she has a deep connection to the ocean as well, and that she wanted that to be part of her name. And I was like, oh my gosh, I like it. I really liked it. I was like, okay, that's what I'll name you. And it was just so beautiful. And she also said to me, she was like, July 27th. And I was like, okay. I don't know what year that will be, whether it's like a conception date or a birth date, I'm not sure, but she was like, July 27th. So if it's a birthday, she'll be a Leo like me, which would be cool. But yeah, she was just showing me so much telepathically and energetically that I can't even explain. And then Mother Ayahuasca was showing me that I need to do a little bit more purging energetically. And she showed me, she's like, I want you to use your lungs, like one of those, guys, what are those things called that, like, is it called an xylophone or something? Where you, like, they press it in and out and it's like, it's like makes those really high pitched kind of noises. Does anyone know what that's called? It's not a xylophone, not that. What is it? It's like a really old, it's like a really old, like, yeah, thing that it's like plays music. I can't remember what it's called. But basically, she'll show me you need to like squeeze all the air out of your lungs and then take another deep breath. And then squeeze all the air out of your lungs and then take another deep breath. So I was just laying there and I was like, and I'd get to the point where I was like just like squeezing like every last little tiny bit of air out of my lungs and then and like filling it up again, and it was just such this like cleansing through my breath. Emily, like a harmonian. Yeah. Yeah, so I was like seeing my lungs as these things I had to squeeze all the air out of and then refill them back up, and it just felt so cleansing. And then so I was doing that, and then I started seeing some of my soul sisters, like Viola. Don't know if you're watching. Chelsea said accordion. I'm not sure if it's a harmonian or accordion. I'm not sure. But I started seeing Viola, and I was just looking at her and just adoring her. I was like, oh my gosh, you're like my soul sister. I just love you so much. And it was this, and then I started seeing Kate. Her name's Kate Moore. I was just adoring her as well. I knew that she was being called to ayahuasca as well. So Kate, if you're watching this. And then Vale, you were with me, and I was adoring you, and you were guiding me through the breathing as well. Who else? Like, there was a lot of like soul sisters, but I can't. Those are the main faces that I can remember, and I was just watching you all and just feeling so much love. And it was like she was, Viola just messaged me. It's like she was showing me to practice seeing people from pure love, like no opinion or judgment, or like it was just seeing someone just from pure soul level love, and it was just so pure, and I felt the amount of love that is possible. You know, like you can love someone to a certain extent, but when you love them like that unconditional soul level love, it was like I could experience like what it's like to see someone and adore them from that space, and it was just so much more. So that was amazing. And I've noticed since then, like, I'll just look at people and just adore them a lot more than I already adore lots of people, but I just have been extra adoring people lately. And also, like, at one point I felt myself, because I've got like bonding on two of my teeth, to like fill like gaps that I had in my teeth that I didn't like. So I had like bonding to like just reshape the tooth so that it didn't have a gap, from the dentist. And I remember at one point I was like touching with my tongue those teeth, and I was just like thanking them. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for giving me the smile that I wanted and helping me feel confident and everything like that. And I was like, I know I don't need you to feel that way, but thank you so much. Like, I was just having this deep gratitude for my teeth. It was so, like, it's really intense. And then also she was bringing up the fact that all my life, especially when I was kind of going through my teenage years, I just always just hated my freckles. Like, my freckles on my face, I just always thought, like, oh, I don't like them. I always wanted to, like, cover them up, and I always just wished I never had freckles. And she came up to me and she pulled this layer of skin off my face. So it was like this layer of skin that she was showing me, and it had freckles on it. And she was making me look at it, and she was making me realize that is not, it's not my identity. It's not who I am. It's just a layer of this body that I encompass throughout this lifetime. It made me just let go of having such an attachment of disliking them. And I feel so much, and then she just shed that piece away, like she just kind of threw it away, like just let that go kind of thing. And she was also showing me that, like, back with my business side of things, she was showing you need more team members because you need more support to really grow to the next level. You need more people taking care of things that need to be done, but it's not your zone of genius, so that you can just stay in your zone of genius. So I've been like very focusing since then on expanding my team and bringing people in to assist, so that I can just really stay in my zone of genius. And also another thing was that, like, when I was having these visions, it's unexplainable, but the colors, it's like you see a rainbow and you see the range or the spectrum of colors, and it's like, cool, like all these different colors. But in the visualizations, the colors were just, it was like this never-ending spectrum of colors, like every single tiny little shade of difference. Like, I saw every single color, and it was just incredible. And I was just looking and thinking, oh my God, like, just looking at the colors was just amazing. And I'll tell you something interesting too, is one of you, who was it? Someone mentioned in here that Anka, or Vanessa was saying Anka means grace in Hebrew. I did find that out because what happened was, later that night, after I had kind of sobered up and was finishing the ceremony, because it's after about 6 hours, I said to them, I was like, I can't walk back to my room because my room was a little bit far away, and so they had to get the golf cart kind of thing to come pick me up and take me to my room, because I was still like wobbly, and I was just smiling and just, thank you, like just looking around like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But I went back to my room and I called my partner and I told him everything about it, and was like, oh my God, it was so intense, but it was so amazing, I don't even know what to say. Like, I was just feeling all kinds of things. And it was really interesting because I said to him, I was like, I met our daughter, and she told me her name was Anka Ocean. And she told me July 27th, and like, cause she'd shown me that he was the father. And he was like, oh, that sounds really nice. He goes, I always thought I'd call my daughter Grace, but Anka's nice. And I was like, yeah, well, she told me it was Anka Ocean, so we're calling her that. And he was like, okay, cool. And then we got off the phone, and he always Googles everything. And so he went on Google and looked up what's the meaning of what's the meaning of Anka? And he looked it up and it said, yeah, the Hebrew meaning of Anka is grace. So he was like, oh my God, like I all my life thought I was going to call my daughter Grace. If I had a daughter, he just always thought I would want to call a daughter Grace. So he was like, oh my gosh, now I really like the name because it means the words that I've always felt I want to call my daughter. So we were just both like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like we just knew that it was right. And so that was the first night. So should I even like keep going, or should I share the other parts at another time, because that's only the first night. That was the most eventful night though. So the other nights, to share the other nights wouldn't take it wouldn't take as long. Just give me a yes if you've got more time, if you want me to share the rest, or or you can just comment if you think I should leave it at that and do like a part 2 and share the rest. Vanessa, you're like, yes, I'm gripped. Share more. Okay, yeah, I will, because it won't take as long. The next day, during the day, I was just like shattered. I was just like, my body was shattered, my mind was shattered, my emotions were shattered. I was just like, I didn't know if I hated it or loved it. I was like, just reflecting on the first night, I was thinking, I remember promising myself that I would leave today. Like just thinking, far out, like it was just so intense and I couldn't think straight about anything. It's like she just comes in and she just shreds down every part of you that needs to be let go of, and it's exhausting. So I would have times throughout the day where I would be crying and just exhausted and needing naps, and I was just like, oh. And so I booked in my massage before that night's ceremony started, because I was like, I need to go and like get a massage and like really relax and really get in a good space before I go into the second night. So I went and had my massage, that was nice, and then we went into the second night ceremony, and it was different shamans, a different brew of ayahuasca, so different purpose, different intentions from the shamans. And I was going into it like quite kind of nervous, and I saw one of the shamans from the night beforehand, and I said, like, last night was really overwhelming for me. I'm kind of nervous. And she's like, oh yeah, you had a lot last night. And I was like, what? And she's like, you had a lot. I said, what do you mean? Everyone had 2 cups. She goes, yeah, but not everyone's as little as you. And I was like, oh. She's like, you had the same amount as the guys here who are like over 100 kgs. You're half that. So essentially you had double compared to them in terms of the ratio or the relativity, so to speak. So she's like, yeah, you had a lot. I gave you a lot because I knew you needed it. But tonight, if you'd like, you can just ask for a little bit less. So I was like, oh, okay. So I said to them, tonight I want to have like the dosage that I should be having for my size. I don't want to have like a lot tonight. I want to, I just want to have my my normal size dose that I should be having tonight. And they're like, okay. So I had that for my first cup, laid down, and for like an hour or two, I was just kind of laying there and looking around and just being like, not really feeling it or seeing anything in particular. I just kind of felt a little bit woozy and twitching and things like that, and burping and whatnot. And I was like, maybe it just wasn't enough kind of thing. So I thought, okay, I'll go have my second cup and I'll have a little bit more. So I went and had my second cup, lay down, and again for like a I think it was like still another hour or so, and I was like, maybe I'm just off the hook tonight. Maybe my ayahuasca's just giving me a rest. Like maybe I'm just meant to just relax tonight. And I was like, dun, 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 dun. Laying there for a while, and then I was laying there, and all of a sudden I just felt her come up in my body and all through me, and I was like, oh, holy moly, like she's back, because I was kind of like thinking, hour or two and we'll just be going back to our rooms and going to sleep. So I just thought, I'm just not going to experience much tonight. But then, all of a sudden she came rushing all through my body. And I was like, oh, shit, she's back. And she's not joking around. And she was just really intense on my body. And I'm going to have to really look at my notes this time, because it's a bit blurry. But yeah, that night it was more the intention of merge me with my soul and heal my heart and just really kind of recalibrate me with my soul type of thing, to the full level. And oh yeah, and when she was coming in, she was saying to me, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. Because sometimes the medicine, ayahuasca, she needs you to be asleep so that she can do really, really intense work that you just wouldn't be able to handle if you were awake and conscious of it. So she was basically it's kind of like if you go in a hospital for a certain surgery or something, and some surgeries you can be aware, or like stitching and things like that, you can be awake and whatnot, but other ones you need to be knocked out because it's just the work needs to be done without you being aware. Similar to that. And she was saying, like, just go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. And I was laying there and I was like, okay, go to sleep. Like, I would prefer to go to sleep and you do the work and then just wake up and be done with it. But my body was just twitching again and I couldn't physically get myself to go to sleep. So I said to her, I was like, I'm trying to relax as much as possible, but I just can't go to sleep. So she's like, okay, I'm just going to come in and do the work anyway, and I'll just do what you can handle. I was like, okay. This was interesting. The first thing was, she started coming into, like, her energy started coming in really intense into my mouth and my jaw area. And everything starts getting a bit numb. And you can feel her working away. It's like these laser beam type of feelings. And I could feel her working away. And I remembered in one of the workshops beforehand where they teach you about how the medicine works and how to work with it and things like that. They were teaching us that sometimes Mother Ayahuasca, a lot of times, she will come in and she will work on your teeth and your jaw because she has explained previously that why she does that is because when we are toddlers and we are growing teeth, she was explaining that when we grow teeth, whatever is happening in the environment at the time, so, for example, if your parents are having an argument or there's a lot going on or things like that, she was explaining that, like, when you're growing that tooth, I don't know how to explain it, but you take on and you store in that tooth and in your jaw the energy that's around you at the time. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but that's just what she said. And so she came into my jaw and my teeth, and she was doing all this healing in there, and at a cellular level, letting go of and releasing stored memories or energies that no longer served me. That felt really interesting. And then as she was working deeper into my body, she said to me, I need you to stop breathing so I can go deeper. And at first I was like, you want me to what? Like, I do need to breathe. You realize that, right? Like, you want me to stop breathing? And she was like, yep, just do it and just watch. And I was like, okay. So I just stopped breathing. I wasn't like holding my breath. I just stopped the motion of either breathing in or breathing out. I was just still. And surprisingly enough, I didn't need to breathe. Like, I was just laying there, not breathing, just completely still, and it just felt really peaceful. Like, you know, when you normally hold your breath, you feel this, like, suffocating kind of feeling starting to rise up in your body, and you start realizing, like, I really need to breathe now. Didn't have that at all. And I don't know how long I was doing that for, because when you're in the ayahuasca, time expands and you just have no awareness of time. Like, sometimes we would be journeying for 2 or 3 hours and it only felt like 45 minutes. So you don't have any awareness of time. So I didn't know how long I was just not breathing for, but it felt like ages. And then every once in a while I'd take a little breath because I thought, I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to just, you know, think that I'm fine not breathing, but really my body is going to die. So I just take these little breaths every once in a while. And I'd feel it that when I'd be just not breathing, she would come in way more intense. She'd get in there and she'd do all this energetic work on my body. And then when I would take a little bit of a breath, it would kind of calm off again. And then I'd stop breathing and just kind of being still, and she would come in and she'd get in there. And she showed me that she was like, she'd show me my body, or my energy body, like splitting up into all these layers, and she was getting in between the layers, and she was doing all this coding work in the layers of my body, my energy body. I was just laying there thinking, this is really intense, but just go with it kind of thing. Because when she's really up in you, you can't help but feel a bit overwhelmed, because she is fucking powerful. Like, I've had a million energy healings before and felt all the energy and been like, wow, this is really powerful energy. But she is like total different level. And it's just completely like intense. She's all working through all these layers of my body. And I was saying to her, like, probably already doing this, but I'd really love if you could help me let go of and purge any fears that I'm holding on to from the past, when I had like a lot of anxiety and overwhelm going on, because I feel like it wasn't present in my life anymore, but I could still feel that it was kind of just like still kind of just stored in my cellular memory. And I was like, I just want to be completely cleansed of that. And so she, and I could tell she was already working on it as well. And then, I just need to plug my computer in because it's gonna die otherwise. Here we go. Cool. All right, so yeah, she was like, yep, I'm going to work on cleansing any old fears. Just relax. I was like, okay. And then